we're here in the garden and we're going to do stem cutting, and we'll do 2 demos, first on sage and then we're going to move over to hyssop. So a stem cutting is a vegetative propagation method, which means that the new plant is going to be genetically identical to the parent plant. And springtime is a good time to do it. So if we look at this sage plant, we've got down low, there's really woody stem that's its perennial growth, and then up higher we have sort of more like lighter green stem that becomes its annual growth. And if we were to cut really far down, the plant wouldn't propagate well. It's too hard and woody. If we were to cut way up at the top, it's too flimsy and it won't really propagate well either. So we want to kind of go somewhere in between, where there's a bit of turgor, which means that there's enough water flow that it's firm enough, but not really woody. The other thing that we want is we want to make sure that we have at least 2 or 3 sets of leaves on the plant that we're cutting. And we need to make sure that there's at least 1 node below ground. So a node is anywhere where new leaves or buds are coming off. And on this plant, which is in the mint family, the nodes, you can see the leaves come off opposite each other. So one of those nodes is going to end up underground, and so it's going to be where the new roots emerge from. And then the other things we want to take into consideration are that we have clean tools, and we want to make a pretty clean cut, and we want to leave the plant behind with a node so that it can regrow from there. Okay, so have a look around, find a pretty central shoot that looks healthy, doesn't have any kind of diseased leaves on it or bugs or anything like that. So, and I'll try to find one that you can see really well too. Okay, let's see. So from our camera angle, will this one work for us?
Yeah,
okay. Oh yeah, and I've got my little helper up above. So I'm going to make sure I've got lots of leaves at the top, and then I'm going to probably have this node here be my underground node. So I'm going to go in and cut here and see my blade is nice and close to the node, and then I'm leaving the plant with a node at the top that it can regrow from. And then if I take my cutting, I'm going to cut off this bottom stem part because nothing's going to grow from here because I've cut off the node. So if I cut here, this node is going to go underground, and I'm just going to take off the extra leaves there. So our new roots are going to grow from there.
Bring it into the sun. There we go.
So our new roots are going to grow from there, and we'll have a look. We've got quite a few leaves at the top, so I'm going to take off some more because it has no roots. We don't want it to have to do too much work. We don't want it to have to support too many leaves above ground. So as long as we have a few sets to photosynthesize, we don't want it to have to do any extra work. Okay, so now that's our cutting, and so I'm going to put it in soil. So we're just going to move over to the other side to do that.
I'm still up here.
My little helper's still over there. Okay, so I've got soil here. It's quite porous. We don't want it to be a really compact soil because we want the roots to be able to move through that soil. And then you can just take a stick or your finger and make a hole. I've already watered that earlier. And then just stick your cutting in, again making sure there's at least 1 node underground. And then we're just going to press the soil around it, and I'll water that. And then we're just going to make sure that it avoids extremes of heat and cold for the next couple of weeks, and make sure it keeps watered. And it's typical that it might wilt a little bit in a few days, but then it'll perk up again. And I usually keep them for at least a few months before I plant them out. And you can see here other cuttings, those were taken last year, and in fact this hyssop even went to flower, and so I'm going to cut off last year's flower buds down to a node. And this behind us here is hyssop as well, and so I'm going to take one more cutting so you can see it on a different plant. Okay, so the principle's just the same. So we're looking for a healthy shoot that's got, you know, no signs of disease, and we're gonna find somewhere where it's not far down where it's really woody, and again not so high up where it's really flimsy, because that won't take either. And so let's see here, let's take one from over here.
I'm coming.
Okay, so this appears too flimsy. I think we can take one down at the bottom. So I'm actually going to cut it right down to the base there. So that's leaving that plant happy. And then we want a few sets of leaves. I don't want it to be too long, so I think I'll actually cut some of the bottom of this off. And then we can strip away the leaves. So with the sage, I cut them off. Some people like to use a blade to cut them off, but I've actually had pretty good success even just pulling them off. And so in this case, I'm actually going to have maybe 2 or even 3 nodes underground. And so that's our cutting there. So I'm going to get another pot. Does my assistant want to poke the hole in the dirt? Do you want to poke the hole in the dirt? Okay, here, come and put your finger in.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to stick your finger right in the middle and make a hole for us, and then we'll put our hyssop plant in there,
But
okay?
it's wet.
That's okay, just do it anyway. Yep. You want to put the plant in too? Gentle with it, okay? Yeah, stick it right down in there. Oh, I think we need a slightly deeper hole.
But that's the...
Oh, it's as deep as it goes, isn't it? Okay, so we're going to push some soil around it on all sides. We might need to top this one up a little bit. Let's get a little bit more soil. So yeah, we've got 2 or 3 nodes underground, and we've got quite a few sets of leaves up above. And again, we'll water it and keep it protected for a couple weeks. And that's taking a stem cutting. Thanks for your help.